But as the years go on, Pride seems to focus less and less on its original messaging, on the liberation of LGBTQ people. Due to excessive corporate involvement and the constant need of privileged people to co-opt the narrative of marginalized communities, Pride is largely turned into a playground for corporations and non-LGBTQ people to virtue signal and essentially use the month, the movement of Pride, to make themselves feel better. So it's Pride Month, and I'm irritated. Now, at the risk of sounding like a complete homophobe, let me just clarify that statement a little bit. I am gay. A lesbian, in fact. So I should be happy during Pride Month, right? I mean, it's a month that's supposed to be about me and my community, supporting LGBTQ people. You know, what's not to love about that? And if you ask me, gay people should be afforded just a few tiny little privileges during Pride Month. I'm not asking for anything crazy here. I think that I should just be getting free things for existing. That should be happening year-round, actually, but I'm just going to use Pride Month as the excuse for that this month. I should also be able to commit crimes without fear of punishment. Small crimes, misdemeanor crimes, nothing big. Inflation's getting a little crazy, you guys. And I should also not have to wait in any lines. Ever. But I don't get these things, right? I don't get these things during Pride Month. What do I get though? Let's see here. What do I get? I get ugly Pride merch, performative advertising, and I get rainbow logos plastered on every single company logo that I have the misfortune of putting my eyeballs onto. And my major problem with that is that this is not what Pride is supposed to be about. In fact, all of this corporate pride and performative activism that comes with Pride is in complete antithesis to what the original Pride movement was trying to accomplish. Now, if you aren't already aware, Pride did not start as a party. It didn't start as a parade. It didn't start as a march. It actually started as a riot. It was a riot against police brutality that took place at this small gay bar in Greenwich Village, New York City in 1969. This riot, now known colloquially as Stonewall, named after said gay bar where the riot took place, essentially paved the way for all of the Pride parades that we see every year in June today. But it's come to my attention that a lot of people don't know what Stonewall is. They've never even heard of it. I've had conversations with straight people in my life over the past couple of weeks, people that I love, people who are my family members, people who love me, who have never even heard the name Stonewall before, which I found very baffling. Because as someone who's been on Tumblr for the past 10 years, and Tumblr, if you're not aware, is a very, very gay place, I was introduced to Stonewall at quite a young age. And Stonewall is discussed so often and casually on Tumblr that I thought that it was just part of common knowledge, kind of the March on Washington, the Revolutionary War. I thought you could just say Stonewall and people would know what you're talking about, but now I'm realizing that outside of the gay community, that's largely not the case. And that's honestly one of the many factors that motivated me to make this video. The fact that so many people who are celebrating Pride don't really know the origins of the movement and the original meaning of the movement. But like I said, Stonewall was not a party. It wasn't a parade. It wasn't a happy fun time. It was a riot against the NYPD, who were unfairly targeting LGBTQ people for literally just existing. And because of this, it turned into a movement for LGBTQ liberation. But as the years go on, Pride seems to focus less and less on its original messaging, on the liberation of LGBTQ people. Due to excessive corporate involvement and the constant need of privileged people to co-opt the narrative of marginalized communities, Pride is largely turned into a playground for corporations and non-LGBTQ people to virtue signal and essentially use the month, the movement of Pride, to make themselves feel better. Let's talk about the current state of Pride. The current state of Pride is sad. In my opinion. Like I said, everything in this video is my opinion, so if you don't agree with me, that's fine. You can sound off in the comments, but it's my opinion. Thank you very much. And the reason why I think that the current state of Pride is sad is because it encourages virtue signaling and performative activism, but it's 2023. What doesn't encourage both of those things? Anyway, so as I've touched on a little bit, during Pride Month, it is very common for corporations who want to seem woke, they're for the culture, to put a rainbow on their logo, and if they're feeling especially fruity, they might even release a Pride merch collection. But let's investigate what this actually does to help the LGBT community. So, does the rainbow logo help fight against the wave of anti-trans legislation that is currently sweeping across America? No, it doesn't. Does the rainbow logo help support homeless LGBT youth? No, it doesn't help with that either. Does the rainbow logo address the excessive violence that members of the LGBT community, particularly trans and gender non-conforming people, face on a regular basis? No, it also does not help with that. But what does the rainbow logo actually do? Like, it must do something, right? Like, the companies are putting it up there for a reason. We all know that a company's not going to move a finger unless there's a reason for it, right? Well, it gives corporations a way to signal to their consumer base that they are woke and culturally correct. They are abiding by the social norms that require them to be woke. And ultimately, it's a way for corporations to make money off of gay people, LGBTQ people. And that money is most likely not going to be invested into our community to actually help us. Now, I can't speak for every corporation when I say this. I don't know the details. I don't want to know the details. I don't have enough space in my brain. But let's think about this, right? You mosey on over to Target, as one does, and or Walmart, whatever, and you pick up a little pride something, you know what I mean? Where does that money go that you just spent on the Pride collab? Does it go to help LGBTQ people? Does it go to a charity? Does it go to an LGBTQ design? Maybe some of the companies. How much of it goes there? We don't know. See, we don't know any of these things. Essentially, all of this like rainbow type of stuff that I've been explaining really reminds me of what happened during the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020. Like, I'm sure we all remember the Black Square fiasco, but in case you need me to remind you, I will. So essentially, after the death of George Floyd in May of 2020, there were protests across the country against police violence that was particularly targeting Black people, and this was essentially led by the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, at some point during all of this commotion, somebody got the grand idea that if you wanted to showcase your support for this movement, that you could post a black square on your Instagram feed. And so all of these celebrities and corporations and big people, blah, 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 they were posting the black square, and it was like supposed to be like a blackout. I don't even know, right? But we posted a black square, okay? The point of all of these protests, right, were basically supposed to put a spotlight on the discrimination that Black people in America and across the world still face, and was supposed to be a time to listen to and amplify Black voices so that we could bring about real change. But did the square help with that? As you guessed, it probably did not. It didn't help Black people as a community. It didn't help in the fight against police brutality. It didn't help end income inequality. It didn't help do any of these things that would actually, like, largely improve the lives of this group that is being attacked. In this case, it was Black Americans. It did nothing but signal to other people that the person or company that was posting the square was woke. It was a method of virtue signaling, and it was used mostly by people who were not Black, not part of the community being attacked, to signal to other, mostly non-Black people that they were good, abiding by the new social obligation to be woke without actually investigating what that means or doing anything to actually be helpful to the community. And so I've said this a couple of times, the social obligation to be woke. Woke is one of those buzzwords where when you say woke, a lot of people are just gonna like turn off their ears, right? The conservatives have done a really good job of making woke a bad word. And I don't think woke is a bad word, but it's been co-opted by so many people at this point that it's lost its original meaning. And so there's almost this social obligation to appear socially conscious, to appear as though you care about whatever marginalized group it may be, right? And if you don't actively show that you care about these things, that you're a bad person, right? But what the social obligation to be woke does not do is require you to actually be helpful to whatever group needs your help, right? That's not important. The important part is looking like you care, looking like you're helpful, looking like you want to be helpful. So this social obligation to be woke basically leads people to performative activism, slacktivism, Instagram infographic activism, right? All of these isms that look good and are shiny and are pretty and make you seem like you're like a warrior for the people, but you're not really doing anything, right? Because doing things is hard. We don't like doing things. Doing things is so difficult. I understand. But I think it's important to note that a lot of this isms, all of these like, you know, performative actions that people take nowadays, they're not helpful, okay? And I would actually argue that they can be a little bit harmful to whatever community is currently asking for support. And this is the exact same thing that I think is happening with Pride, and it gets more pronounced year after year. The overarching problem with virtue signaling is that it crowds the people that we're actually supposed to be listening to out of the narrative. Because the conversation then becomes about who posted the black square, or who didn't post the black square, or who has the rainbow logo and who doesn't have the rainbow logo, who's racist and who's not racist, who's homophobic and who's not homophobic. And when we focus on these questions, I don't actually think that it's super helpful to whatever community is being harmed, because the conversation shouldn't really be centered on who is posting a black square or who has the company logo, because those things do nothing to communicate to me as a person what you're doing to help Black people or gay people or whatever the community may be. Because you can still post a black square on your Instagram and be racist. You can still have a rainbow on your logo and be homophobic, be transphobic, or even, I think the more pronounced issue is support people or legislation or politicians that peddle homophobic and transphobic agendas, which is literally what's happening right now. So when we spend our time and attention on superficial displays of solidarity, we're really not helping. It's not helping the community that's being harmed, and I think it actively harms them by crowding them out of the narrative. So this brings me to my next point: corporate pride. Because over the past 20, 30, 40 or so years, LGBTQ people, largely gays and lesbians, and I want to make that specific because it's going to come back into what I'm talking about later, but gay people are more visible in the public eye, they're more accepted in the public eye, and corporations were like, hold on a second, guys, I've got an idea. We can make money off of these people. And they surely can make money off of us gays, right? And so because the LGBTQ community is more visible, corporations have realized they can make money off of us by marketing to us, and thus rainbow capitalism was born. Now, I just said that putting a rainbow on your corporate logo does nothing to actually help LGBTQ people. You can still be homophobic even if there's a rainbow on your logo. But let's look at a case study regarding this phenomenon that's been in the news recently with our good friends over at Target. Yes, I did just turn into a 40-year-old mom who's going to Target to get herself a little something something. This year, Target released a Pride merch collection that has garnered a ton of public attention. I wouldn't be surprised if you've already heard of this controversy. But to quickly explain the situation to you, in 2022, Target contacted Erik Carnell, a transgender clothing designer, to work with them to create a Pride merch collection for 2023 Pride. Erik owns a small business named Felon. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and he was obviously excited to get such a huge brand deal with Target, as it would put his name on the map. Any small business owner is looking for an opportunity like this. So his Pride 2023 collection with Target launched in stores last month and was met with immediate backlash from right-wing protesters that even resulted in violence against Target employees and death threats being sent to Erik. And as a result, Target completely pulled Erik's collection from their stores and website. So, what happened here, right? Target was trying to do the right thing. They're making their Pride merch. They even went the extra mile and engaged a trans gay designer. Give him a little, we're going to give him, I guess we can give him applause for that, right? Yay, they're actually trying to support the community. But they ended up canceling the collaboration due to extremist backlash. And now Erik, who, like I said, runs a small business, missed out on potentially one of the biggest opportunities of his career. This opportunity was taken from him because violent protesters who are transphobic and do not want gay people visible in their community, they won, essentially. The transphobes won. And Target ultimately sided with the protesters. It's not very prideful, in my opinion, to pull a collection. Now, I want to be clear that I'm talking specifically about this collection that Erik Carnell did with Target. They still have other merch available in their stores, and there's a whole fiasco with that. Like, some of the stores, they've moved the stand to the back. That's not very prideful, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Yeah. I'm talking specifically about this collection, though. It was completely pulled from the stores and their online retail as well. So clearly Target doesn't really actually support the gay community, because as soon as a roadblock was thrown in their way, they were really quick to just say, no, we're not doing this, we're pulling this, we're not having it in our stores. As soon as they saw that their decision to support the LGBTQ community was resulting in a decrease in their profits, they were like, no, we're not doing this. Okay, I'm back again because I feel like I can already hear some comments saying, well, of course Target had to pull the merch because they had to protect their employees. You just said that there was like violence being directed at the employees because of this pride stand. The violence wasn't being directed at the employees because of the pride stand. It was being directed at the employees because there were these like protesters, we can call them that, but there were these protesters, alt-right protesters, who decided that a pride merch stand was cause enough for them to be violent. Now, I do think that there is some validity to acknowledging that Target had to do something to protect its employees. That is a fair point to make. I'm not here to say, man, fuck them employees, because they don't get paid that much, and I would imagine working at Target sucks, right? So I really feel for them. However, if we pull back from the situation, who ultimately was harmed, I feel like, in the long term? It's Erik. It's the guy who was supposed to have this huge collab, because all of it got pulled. That's a big opportunity to have that taken away from you, because some people are able to go into a Target store and start causing a ruckus. The protesters won. They got exactly what they wanted. They got his stuff removed. And I feel like if we also flipped the script a little bit, what if these protesters had been people of color, or had been gay people, LGBTQ people, had decided to go into Target or Walmart or some store of that nature and start, you know, destroying things or whatever it was they were doing? What if a marginalized group decided to do that? The energy would be different. The energy would be different. The energy from the company would be different. The energy of the press would be different. It would be different. I just think you gotta look at the situation with nuance. And I just think that it's very telling that Target was so quick to just be like, no, we're done. Like, we're not gonna investigate any other way of mitigating this issue. We're pulling your entire collection, and that's it. Anyway, back to the video. I wanted to bring this up because I think it's important to really see how the rainbowification of corporate logos means nothing. Now, I also want to say, did I expect anything better from Target? Absolutely not, okay? Like, corporations are what they are. We know what they want. They want money. It would be deluded to try to convince yourself that a big corporation like Target wants anything else other than that. They don't want to support people. They'll only do it if it's going to make them money, and they'll stop supporting you if that's what's going to make them money. So I'm not surprised, okay? I'm not sitting here like, oh no, how could Target do this? Not my precious Target. Like, I know Target sucks, okay? But I think it's important to actually see this play out in real time, because it's very easy to get sucked into this logo situation. Like, even me, like, when I see a rainbow on a logo, I'm like, I'm a little happy, right? Like, they got me. But they got me because they don't care about me. They're just putting it. It's so easy to put the logo on. It's so easy for them to do that. It's so easy for them to get into my little brain and little trick me. But I can't let them do that. And I don't think you should either. We have to be more vigilant. And what's interesting about this whole situation is the hateful energy that Target received for attempting to support the LGBTQ community is only a fraction of what LGBTQ people face on a daily basis. Which brings me to my next point, and another major reason why I wanted to make this video is that the LGBTQ community is currently under vicious attack. Even though it's 2023 and we may want to think that our society, you know, has progressed, that we progressed to some point of acceptance, there has also been tremendous rise in anti-LGBTQ legislation, particularly legislation that is targeting transgender and non-binary children, gender non-conforming people who are mostly children, who are a very, very vulnerable part of the community. Children are vulnerable just in general, but gay children, trans children, non-binary children, especially vulnerable. So I'm gonna hit you with the facts. Right? Because I came loaded, I came locked. I'm not just gonna come here and talk, bro. Like, I got receipts. So in 2021, the Human Rights Campaign tracked a record number of violent, fatal incidents against transgender and gender non-conforming people, with 50 fatalities tracked. This was 2 years ago. I don't have the specific statistics on the fatalities of 2022 and 2023, but let's just remember that this was 2 years ago. But in 2023, 87 anti-trans bills have already passed out of the 557 proposed in state legislatures across the country. Of those, 74 have been signed into law and 8 others passed but haven't been vetoed or signed yet. To put that in perspective, in 2022, we saw 26 bills pass out of 174 bills proposed. It's Juneteenth today. that I'm filming this, and we've already had 87 bills pass, anti-trans bills, compared to 26 that were passed in the entirety of 2022. So that is an undeniable increase in the amount of legislation that's being produced. And I want to highlight that these statistics were pulled last week when I was doing research for this video, and these numbers have probably already changed by the time that you're watching this, because who knows how long it's going to take me to actually edit this, because I'm lazy, right? Because while I was while I was researching for this video, I revisited the website that I got this information from several times, and I saw this number increase within days. I think the first time I pulled this statistic, there was only 82 pieces of anti-trans legislation that had been passed, and now there is 87. There's probably more now, right? Because I pulled this a couple days ago. All of my sources will be linked on screen and in the description box, so you can go check them out for yourself. But I want to read some of this legislation for you so that you know how horrible things are coming or becoming for gender nonconforming people. Because, like, I hate to admit it, but, like, I was largely ignorant of this issue. I was aware that there was an increase in, like, violence and fatalities amongst trans people. I was aware in this increase in legislation amongst trans people, but I did not know what exact wording, like what the legislation was targeting, and I didn't really know how ubiquitous it was. So here are a couple pieces of legislation that are up in the Senate or have already been passed in the state Senate, depending on what state you're in. So the first one is an Oklahoma Senate bill, SB 129, that basically says a physician or other healthcare professional found to have knowingly referred for or provided gender transition procedures to an individual under 26 years of age shall, upon conviction, be guilty of a felony. So I just turned 24 last month. I'm a full-ass adult. I can buy a gun. I can go to war for this country. This country would have me die in some motherfucking place for some unnecessary reason if I signed up for the military. But God forbid I be trans and want to transition below the age of 26. Now, I'm not saying that this law would be more valid if it said below the age of 18. Okay, I still think that that care should be available to younger children, and like that's the whole thing. But 26? I think the second thing that's important is that the healthcare professional who is knowingly providing or even referred for this care would get a felony. In America, when you get a felony, you get rights taken away from you. It's not just that you get something on your record. It's not just that you serve jail time. You actually lose your right to vote in, I think, 48 out of 50 states. I'll have to verify that. But in a large number of states, you lose your right to vote if you are a felon. Now, this depends on the state. It may just be while you are in jail, but some states will even extend that to a period after jail, and some states may never even give you back your right to vote. And that is one of the only ways that you can actually influence your, legislation in this world, okay? So this is a big deal. It's not just a tiny deal. Now, we've got some other ones, so I had to represent my home state. Arizona, of course. We've got some disgusting anti-trans bills that are there. So let me just read these for you. So Senate Bill 1001 in Arizona basically allows guardians and teachers to override a student's pronouns. What's wrong with you? Stop. Like it harms nobody at all to just use somebody's it doesn't harm you. It's fine. No, it's not fine, actually, but I'm just going to move on. Senate Bill 1698, whatever, in Arizona, basically would redefine venues that host drag shows as adult-oriented businesses. And then Arizona House Bill 1700 would basically allow parents or guardians who are made uncomfortable by a certain book that may be available at their child's school to ban books in schools that validate concepts of gender or pronouns. So we can see that a lot of this legislation is specifically targeting children. And this is just a drop in the bucket. There are hundreds of bills out there targeting LGBTQ people in different ways and trying to pilot the narrative that we are groomers. They really just keep coming back to that one. And one thing I want to say about this is this focus that conservatives and right-wing people have on protecting the children is ridiculous, because a Pride merch stand at Target is not going to make your kid gay. It's not. I promise. And I can prove it to you. I have facts. So I started this video by establishing a little bit of ethos as somebody part of the community. I'm a lesbian, but I wasn't I didn't know that for a long time. I was raised as every other little girl in America was, with all of this, like, basically heterosexual language. That's how people are raised. You're told as a kid that one day you're gonna get a boyfriend, and do you like any boys at school? So basically, you're socialized to be straight, and there's a whole conversation to be had about how that affects you as a gay person. But listen, I spent my entire life being socialized as a straight girl, and I still turned out this way. I still turned out a lesbian. It doesn't matter. And that is true for every gay person. They were socialized as straight, is like completely right, and they still turn out gay. So your kid going to Target or wherever, or reading a book in school that has to do with the concept of gender or pronouns, is not gonna immediately make them trans or gay, or like, it's not, okay? Because us gay people have survived this straight programming. It's propaganda. It is, right? Just like take half a second to think about it. Like rub two brain cells together. Like if you need a brain cell, just let me know. I can get you one. Okay, I'm back one more time because I didn't make a point in this portion of the video that I really wish that I had. So the whole save the children narrative, it's really funny when conservatives harp on that, because what about gun violence in schools? Yeah, I know, it's not the first time somebody sat here and been like, well, clearly you guys don't care about the kids, because when the kids get shot up, you don't want to do anything. You got thoughts, you got prayers, but restrictions on gun, any sort of regulations, nah, we're not going to do that, because that would violate somebody's Second Amendment right, and that's so important. But I just had to come here and say that all of this legislation that I just quoted to you in this video, I mean, or a good portion of it, is sitting here saying, man, like, we've got to protect these kids. We got to protect these kids from pronouns. 'Cause pronouns are going to get you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. No, that's not going to happen. Here, I'm here to tell you. If you didn't know, you're safe from pronouns. The pronouns are not going to get you. They are actually conceptual. They have no physical embodiment in this world, so you're not going to get murked by a pronoun. So let's just chill out. The hypocrisy is annoying. There's not a lot of point in me pointing that out, because largely these lawmakers, these like people who sit here and say that they're protecting this children, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. That's why they get away with doing what they do. That the save the children argument is just complete crap. Anyway, back to the video. I hope that, I don't think I'll be back, but who knows, you know. This legislation is completely ridiculous, but it doesn't matter that it's ridiculous, because if it's passed, and a lot of bills similar to the ones that I just read to you have already been passed, then gay people who are mostly LGBTQ people who are mostly kids will face the consequences. And the consequences for them are going to be very real, regardless of how ridiculous the legislation may be. So let's bring the conversation back to Stonewall, though. In 1969, trans people were at the forefront of the fight for gay liberation. In fact, they were largely the people who started the movement. Trans women like Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P Johnson fought the hardest for LGBTQ rights, but trans people largely got left behind by cis white gays and lesbians because of the racism and transphobia that existed and still exists within the LGBTQ community. So I'd like to show you a video of Sylvia Rivera, a trans LGBTQ activist, speaking at a 1973 gay pride rally in New York City. I first saw this video on, of course, Tumblr. What can I say? I'm just cool like that. Anyway, but I think it's really informative, because even though it was 73 when this was filmed, a lot of the things that she is saying are still applicable today. So put that on the screen.
I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. And you all treat me this way? What the fuck's wrong with you all? Think about that. I believe in the gay power. I believe in us getting our rights, or else I would not be out there fighting for our rights. The people that are trying to do something for all of us, and not men and women that belong to a white middle class, white club. And that's what you all belong to. Revolution now!
So So, the same issue of trans people being removed from the narrative that is happening today was happening back in the 70s, and it shows how much we haven't really changed in, like, the work that we need to do both inside and outside of the gay community to support trans and non-binary people. And this brings me to, like, the real crux of this issue, and the real point that I want to make with this video is that trans people are central to creating what we now know as Pride. If you have enjoyed any part of Pride, regardless of your gender or sexual orientation, you have trans and non-binary, largely people of color, to thank for that. If you went to a Pride parade in the past couple of weeks, if you went to a bar and had drinks and you did anything, these are the people to thank for that, and they're getting cut out of the narrative. Not only are they getting cut out of the narrative, they're actually being very heavily attacked in real ways. We don't need rainbow logos and performative merch. We need support. Real support that isn't going to cut and run when shit gets a little tough. And the current state of Pride is not conducive to that at all. Pride is not a time for straight people to just like dip a toe in the community, you know, like, oh my god, let's go to a little gay bar, like, just have some drinks. You know what I mean? And then come July 1st, cut and run. That's not what Pride is supposed to be about. It's like I've seen people say things that are like transphobic or homophobic minutes before walking into a gay bar, and they don't even realize what they're saying is bad, but they're still so ready to insert themselves into the community because Pride has become like a party for everybody. Because it's so widely marketed now, it's including everybody into the movement, which is great, because I'm not saying that Pride should include or should exclude LGBTQ people. Like, that's so far from the point, because we kind of all need to like band together to support each other. But when you invite everybody into the narrative, it's very easy for the people who are privileged and just see Pride as a party to make it about them. And I think that's what's happening, and I hate it. We all need to be more vigilant of this, like, anti-trans legislation, right? Like, that's being passed, proposed, whatever, in our state legislatures. We need to check our privilege. Another buzzword, I know. When people tell you to check your privilege, you want to immediately just turn off your ears, because, like, thinking and self-reflection is hard. It's very hard. I know. It's hard for me, too. But it's necessary, right? It's necessary to actually progress. I'm not like calling anybody out in this video aside from like corporations and stuff, but just take a second to actually think about what privileges you have. I'm not excluding myself from the need to check my privilege because, like I said, I'm a biracial lesbian woman, but I'm also cis, which is a huge privilege. It brings a lot of social privilege that I need to be mindful of in my daily life. Because intersectionality plays a huge role in how we are perceived as gay people. It's not just a flat thing like that all LGBTQ people are perceived the same by society. I honestly like don't know what to do about these corporations because like I said earlier, like they're corporations. Like what do you expect out of them? They only care about money. Like, and we know this. Like whenever a corporation does something really shitty, I'm not surprised because this is what they do, right? I'm not saying that that's like a blank check for them to do whatever they want. Oh, you're a corporation. We already know you're evil. Just do whatever you want. No, but keep expectations low. You'll be less disappointed. It's just a personal recommendation of mine. And I think largely what they do is out of our control, but I don't want people to be fooled by the rainbows and the cringy pride slogans, live, laugh, lesbian. I don't know if you've seen the live, laugh, lesbian t-shirt that Target released. That was so cringy that I would almost buy it. I know, guys. I know it's like disappointing, but like it was low-key kind of funny. But anyway, let's not be fooled by this shit, okay? Because they don't really care about us. If you want to support LGBTQ people this Pride Month, don't buy Pride merch from Walmart. What you can actually do is research what's happening in your state legislature to target LGBTQ people, because I guarantee there is some bullshit going on, regardless of whether you think you live in a blue or a red state. Now that conservatives have largely been successful in getting rid of abortion, they need an issue, right? Like they need an issue to motivate their base to go to the polls, and they usually base this motivating factor off of fear. Cis white gays and lesbians, like society's okay with them. Like we had Ellen, you know, so society's okay with them. They've really exhausted, they haven't exhausted, but they got to be a little bit trickier about how they attack black people nowadays. They won abortion, so they got that, right? And they're like sitting there and they're probably thinking, damn, like, who have we not... Trans people, right? And so now they're directing all of their attention, especially on trans people, and they really hit the mark with the whole save the children thing. It's really working for them, and that is unfortunate for us. Okay, now this topic of why and how conservatives basically pick whatever like social issue they're going to harp on to drive people to the polls could be a whole video topic in and of itself. I am not going to cover that, but I can link a lot of stuff down in the description box that will show you, or good videos that do cover that very well. And that's basically brought us to the end of this video. I am curious to know though, how many of you guys are like gay? How many of my subscribers are? I don't know. YouTube doesn't give me analytics about that. So if you feel comfortable, just like, you know, drop down in the chat. I'm just interested. You don't have to. But I would also love to hear what you guys think about this video. Like, what do you feel about pride? Like, how do you feel about pride? I actually really don't want to hear if you're gonna like say something like mean or like, yeah, if you're gonna like be a bigot, I will remove your comment. I'm just gonna say that. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think about this topic, what you guys think about corporate pride. Also, leave a little like and subscribe, you know what I mean, if you found this video at all informative or interesting, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.